For more, let's bring in former acting DHS Secretary and America First Policy Institute Executive Director Chad Wolf. Sir, great to see you. Terrible story here, and to me, an absolutely tragic but perfect encapsulation of the problem with the Biden-Harris border policy, particularly when it comes to gotaways. Can the Homan plan on deportation make a huge dent in this exact thing?
Well, undoubtedly, yes. But it's not just the deportation plan or removal plan, but it's also the policies that the incoming Trump administration will put in place along that border to stop this type of incursion into the country. Look, this individual was deported. He obviously came back in as a gotaway. And there's been over 2.5 million gotaways under the last 4 years because Border Patrol agents aren't out there on the line patrolling the border. Instead, they're in Border Patrol facilities facilitating and processing illegal aliens. And so we've got to get away from that. I think the policies that you'll see with the new incoming team, including Tom Homan, as well as others, will put a stop to that. So there'll be more agents on the line interdicting these folks and removing them.
Yeah, you know, this is, for me, I think for every New Yorker, for every woman, that was a woman who was asleep at 7:30 in the morning in a place where she should have been safe and was murdered in the most horrible way. Nobody came to her rescue. No. We don't know certainly who she is, but this is a signal. This has happened to be caught on one of the cameras in the car of the subway. So we see it. We were able to identify him as a result. But this is the kind of random murder that is savage, that is affecting so many Americans, where we don't have cameras, where we don't have videos of it. Yeah. And these are people who get away, and it's at the core of what the problem is with the open border, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. And unfortunately, every single day we have these types of crimes, not specifically folks being lit on fire, but crimes from illegal aliens happening every single day. And
Murders.
Of course, some of the higher profile ones we talk about. But this goes back to every crime committed by an illegal alien is a preventable crime if you have the right policies in place. The last 4 years, we've had anything but that. So obviously, we look forward to a new administration, new policies, and new priorities to protect American citizens wherever they are against this type of crime.
Chad, I want to ask you about this as well. Migrant child trafficking is surging under this administration, but according to DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, that's not his problem. Listen to this.
Outrageous.
We certainly have received reports of children being trafficked, even those as to whom we know where they are. That is outside the responsibility of the Department of Homeland Security. What we do is we turn children over within 72 hours, as the law requires, to the Department of Health and Human Services, and then HHS places those children. Of course, we investigate cases of trafficking.
So he's basically doing the not my problem, not my jurisdiction, not my job. Go talk to somebody else about that. I just have to imagine that was not be the approach that you would advise for someone in that role.
Of course not. That is a bureaucratic answer to a very difficult problem, and a problem that most Americans want solved. And you just have to talk about the policies that this administration has put in place, both at DHS but also HHS, that have caused the worst human trafficking crisis amongst unaccompanied alien children that we have seen. And for the secretary to sit there saying, well, it's not really DHS's problem, that's not what the American people want to hear. They want to hear that the federal government's working on it, that they have a solution for it, instead of just passing the buck, which is clearly what he's trying to do.
Right, and also, we have to remember, why does DHS exist? After September 11th, we wanted all the agencies to work together to stop massive problems. How is over 250,000 missing children not a massive cultural, moral problem of every person in this country? And what's happening to them, we're complicit. And you don't want to think about what's happening to the girls, little girls, children, babies, adolescents. And he's over there shrugging. And this is supposed to be when the agencies come together, use all the resources. And yet, the agencies were the problem in this framework. I mean, this clearly is the difference here between a bureaucracy running things and somebody like President Trump and those who will run his agencies really caring about the American people.
Well, I think that's right. And we got to think, right? It's really important to remember that the children are some of the most vulnerable population. And by certain measurements, over 300,000 children have been lost in the immigration system. These are children that have come across that border, that have been trafficked, that are now put in sponsors here in the United States. And 300,000 have been
We don't know where they are.
in that system. And that's on the Biden administration. And to have the secretary sit there and say, well, it's not really my problem, someone else's problem. It's tone deaf. Obviously, it's the wrong answer, but it's also why the American people elected Donald J. Trump, because they want answers and they want solutions to these problems.
Yep, well said. Chad Wolf, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, sir.
Good to see you.